Welcome to the Self-Publishing School podcast. This is the podcast to listen to if you're an aspiring writer or an author who wants to be more successful. On this show, you'll learn how to write and launch a book successfully, all from the top authors and people just like you who are doing it at the highest level. I'm your host, Chandler Bolt, the founder of Self-Publishing School, the author of the book called Published, and the CEO of selfpublishing.com. For free training on how to publish a book that sells 10,000 copies, go to selfpublishing.com/free training. Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Nick Unsworth. I've known Nick, for probably almost a decade, back to our San Diego days. We're both Texans now, and it's funny, I was reminiscing with a friend the other day. I'm like, I feel like most of my closest friends here in Austin all used to live in San Diego, which is hilarious in a small world. Nick, if you've never met him, he's the founder of lifeonfire.com. He's an internationally known speaker and author and business coach. He's spoken to huge audiences, tons of events. He sold his first business by age 30, so he's got kind of experience in that side of things. Way back, I think the first interview that we ever did, we were talking about his book, the book on Facebook marketing. And now he's done all sorts of crazy stuff, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate investing. He's hosted crazy live events, doing tons of revenue. So we'll unpack some of that. And I've got a bunch of other questions. So we're gonna go a lot of different directions with this interview. You guys are in for a treat. Nick, welcome. Great to have you.
Hey man, I'm so pumped to be here with you guys. And I think we took the San Diego marketers enclave, moved it to Texas, and now we're just making it happen out here. So pumped to be here.
We are the people, I guess, that everyone hates. They say from California.
Hopefully Texas is it. Hopefully it's not like we're going to Florida next or something.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Well, hey, I guess I wanted to start with this, Nick. I mean, I think one of your biggest strengths, at least from the outside looking in, is the ability to pivot and adapt and go all in on emerging markets and just like go all in on something and grow it massively. You've got multiple 7- and 8-figure companies, and I've seen you do it in a bunch of different industries. So how do you do that? I mean, it's kind of a big, broad question, but like, how do you do that? And how do you know when to do it? I know it was like, you got Facebook marketing at the start, Life on Fire. Then it is a lot of faith-based business stuff. You've got the real estate investing. So like, how do you know when to pivot and shift your focus?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think that for a long time, I used to resist that temptation to pivot and to change things, because a lot of people say, master the mundane, stay in the same thing as long as you can. And it's not just a career. Like a lot of business coaches talk about, what's your one thing, stay in it for 20, 30, 40 years, which I love that. The one thing that I found is, for me personally, is that I'm an igniter. I'm a starter. And, if you're hearing this or watching this, and if you're like me and you're someone who maybe a little bit ADHD, a little bit, you like to create and start, what I realized is that that's part of my gifting. And so instead of running away from it, trying to stay in the same thing, it's like, okay, if my greatest value is ignition and building a team in a new company, then I'm going to double down on that. And so that was kind of my big aha in realizing that I can build this how I want to build it. And I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And so, it's like, it is a little bit confusing from a personal brand standpoint, because it's like, people are now like, you used to be the Facebook guy, then you were, Mr. Life on Fire. And what the heck is the real estate stuff? And at the end of the day, I just look at it as, hey, serial entrepreneur. But if you can find the right partner or the right team to start something that you're passionate about, and also being ahead on timing is very important too, I learned that lesson the hard way before I was, did well in business. I had failed at 11 different businesses. When I was 28 years old, I got into telecom, and the whole industry was growing like crazy because it was deregulated. I got in, and this was in 2001. And then the company I was with went bankrupt because cell phones came out. I get into real estate in the wrong time. And then, I literally got into real estate at the end of 2007 when the bust happened. And so what I realized when I got into Facebook is that timing it's an X factor in business. It's a competitive advantage. It's a multiplier. And so when I got into Facebook marketing, that was in 2010. And so I went from being the guy that sucked at business, failed at everything he touched, to somehow building and selling a company in 2 years, which was my dream. And so I really like to look at timing and see if can you grab the timing advantage. And so anyway, that's part of what led me into real estate. I had the right partner, a guy who was a best friend, a guy who was at the top in the industry at a company called Fortune Builders for 15 years, literally the biggest company in the country teaching real estate investing education. And he had a dream. And he says in his entire life, this was a top 3 encounter with God moment. I was in the dream. We were arm in arm, with this really cool mountainous, view in front of us. And he said, I think we're supposed to do this together. And my initial knee-jerk reaction was, I got to stay in the same lane, do the same thing over and over. But he said, he had never felt more saturated in God's presence. And I prayed on it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on my gifting of starting and igniting. And I'm glad I did, because that business took off and became significantly larger than anything I've ever built. And I'd rather have 50% of a pie that's literally 10 times bigger than 100% of a pie. And it's not just financially, motivated, is that the impact is we're reaching thousands and thousands and thousands of high ticket coaching clients we're able to work with, and reaching, hundreds of thousands online. So
that's really cool. Is that Randy or somebody else?
Jeff Rakowski.
Okay,
and he's good
cool.
friends with Randy Zimnock.
Cool.
Randy's one of my best buds. But yeah, same circle.
Love it. That's awesome. And so I want a follow-up question on that. And that's sharing faith in your business and building a faith-based business. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I might be hallucinating, but I think early days, it wasn't, Life on Fire was, there was Facebook marketing, there was growing your business, there was starting a podcast, stuff like that. But it feels like over the maybe, and I know like sometimes again, I might be hallucinating, but I feel like you would have events and it would be like, oh, we got a bus and we're taking people to church on Sunday, like C3 San Diego days, all that stuff. So it's like always kind of sprinkled in. But then it became a major part of your business. And so I guess, how did you think through that? I know for a lot of folks, myself included, kind of wrestle with that of like, okay, hey, this is my personal faith. How much of this do I share in my business? Do I include in my business? And I think there's maybe sharing it, but then like, okay, this is an overtly faith-based business. Like, how do you kind of think about that? And how did you decide to make that shift?
Yeah, no, another great question. So I would say, basically, the quick timeline is sold a business, started Life on Fire in 2013. I would say I knew of God. I was grew up Catholic, far from God. I realized that money wasn't the key to joy or happiness. I realized that, I had achieved this cool dream that was about building and selling a company, but I missed, in my opinion, one of the most important elements or aspects of life is I didn't think about love. I was so focused on this goal that I was alone. I had nobody. And so long story short is, I became a born again Christian December 8th, 2013. I met my wife and she got me planted in a church. And then I was trying to like show off and I'm like, yeah, I'll go to men's prayer at 5:30 in the morning. I'll learn how to pray. I'll be an usher and pass buckets. But then God got a hold of me. My whole life radically changed. And so had a healing on my knee, and I've never seen miracles. I never knew that they were real in real life. And so what happened was at that time, so now we're into 2014, when I was doing a 3-day event for Life on Fire, that was secular. I just felt like, how can I not share the most exciting, fascinating, like best part of my life, which was this newfound faith and I'd never been to a non-denominational church before. I didn't know that existed. I only knew that there was Catholic churches, And so I was just kind of like, maybe call it like a baby Christian, just bursting with like excitement about Jesus. And I said to my pastor, I said, I had a dream about me sharing my testimony at the event. And I said, in the dream, I shared my faith and did an altar call, and people accepted Jesus at the event. And I said, can you come and do that for us? And he said, you do it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, hey, I'm the new guy. Like, I'm not qualified. I can't do that. And I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't even finished reading the Bible. I'm like, I was still dropping F-bombs in the lobby at church. Like, that was effing awesome. They're like, flipping, Nick, that was flipping awesome. Oh yeah. Sorry. So, but he just basically like trained me up and took me under his wing. And so I share that because it was really about just, I couldn't help but share what was authentically me and most important part of my life. And I had felt like I lived all these years and I was always searching for something. And I was always hoping that business was going to fill this void in my heart and in my life. And I realized it wasn't business. It wasn't money. It wasn't success. It was God. And so anyway, long story short is this was all new. And, what I did was at the end of the event, and I said, listen, you've heard from me and how I sold the business and all the marketing strategies. You've heard from some of my mentors. Mentors came in and spoke. And then I just said, listen, I'm going to do an optional session. You don't have to be in the room. I want to respect you and your views and this and that. But it's an optional session. I want to share my best mentor, my number one mentor, and he's free. And people were losing their mind. People were like, who is it? They're thinking someone's going to come out, on the stage. And I said, it's Jesus. And people, they were laughing. And so it's just, it softened it, and at that point, at the end of the event, people knew this wasn't some kind of Jesus bait and switch. They knew my heart. They trusted me, because I really served them during the event. And all I did was just share my testimony because I couldn't believe that by dedicating my life to God, becoming a better man, not perfect by any means, but by becoming someone who could meet my wife. That was my first big prayer. And then the healing on my knees. So I just shared what I had walked through. And at the end, I did what my pastor told me to do. And then people came down, dedicated their life to Jesus. And then we rented a bus and we brought people to church. And so once that happened, it was like, wow, this is really cool. Then the entire business was like, okay, yes, we want to help people, coach people, get our clients results. But the other most important KPI is going to be about building the kingdom and salvations. And so we made that part of the mission, and we'd rent, a bus every time we would do an event, and we'd bring everyone to church. And the church was so good at getting them planted and discipling them. And most of the people stayed. Most of the people would go to this church because it's called Awaken now. It used to be C3. It's so life-changing that people would stay. So that was a big part of the mission. Then we got to a place where it was almost just like, I felt like it was almost inauthentic to not share that up front and knowing that that was the model that we were going to do. So when COVID hit, we decided that we were going to just serve and bless everybody. And so we used to charge for these online challenges, been doing that since like 2015. And then we said, what if we bless everybody? What if we just do what we normally charge $47 for? And we run ads like we normally do. We invest a couple $100,000 in ads. And while everyone's scared with COVID and everyone's not working and at home, let's just go the other direction. You know what I mean? And and let's do it for Christians. And let's say, hey, let's focus now on, we want to activate and build an army of Christian entrepreneurs and be bold in their faith. Because years ago, like, people thought I was legit insane for bringing faith to a business event. They literally thought, like, dude, you just got clients. You're going to lose these clients. Are you nuts? Like, you can't, like, it was so taboo. It was so bad. Like, you don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion, right? But I just really believed that we could play some role. I'm definitely not trying to take credit for it, but to play some role in making it more common and making it okay for someone to be proud of their faith, right? It's like we've got this sleeping giant of Christians all over the country, and our country is being pulled apart and more divided than ever. And it's like, we got to wake up. Like, we could be not feeding into division, but it's like, why don't we inspire people to have a relationship with God? God is love. Like, how are we going to, in today's day, it's like, if we can get more people to love God who already loves them, I don't think we'd be living in the same world that we're living in today. And then last thing is there was, Billy Graham, one of the greatest evangelists ever. His last prophetic word was that the next great awakening in the marketplace is going to be through believers in the marketplace. So think of it as like the next great revival in this country is through the marketplace amongst believers. And so we really just grabbed onto that and said, you know what, like, this is what we want to do. And we want to activate Christians to be bold, to write books, and to share, their message, their God-given message with other people, and be bold and courageous with their testimony. Because if someone, like, what's so cool about God is if somebody experiences a miracle, and you'll never be the same when you have an encounter with God. It's just impossible. You can't help but share it. And so it's like, well, let's just get more people having a relationship. And then the cool thing is, like, it's not religion and doctrine, it's like relationship. And so that became the mission. And, it's interesting. We get a lot more hate now that we're clear up front of, like, here we're serving, kingdom entrepreneurs, Christian entrepreneurs. What's wild is you get really religious people talking about the love of money and all these things, and some Bible verses out of context. And it's wild because it's actually made it, it's like some of the comments are more nasty from Christians. And the sad thing is that if someone is going to market their business to Christians, if you don't have pure intentions, it goes evil very quickly. If it's to make more money because it's a tighter target market, if it's for greed or for any of these things, imagine how negative that is to the body of Christ, right? So our whole thing is like, it's like, you don't want to mess with God, right? So you have to really help people, and you have to have really good intentions. And like anything, any industry, there's good and bad actors. And it's sad that we are seeing a lot of people, quote, marketing that for marketing purposes, as opposed to, kind of authentically doing it for a mission. But
right. And I think as an outside looking in, I mean, it seems like the business has exploded since that pivot. And I would imagine it's partially due to the focus and the mission, but then I want to also go down the live event route and the challenge route and that sort of thing. But I guess first, is that true or not? Like, it seems like the business really took off when you guys doubled down on challenges and just were straight up at the start, like, hey, this is a faith-based business with faith-based business coaching, that sort of thing.
It did grow significantly. The real estate brand is also for Christian entrepreneurs. And part of it is just the old, marketing concept of the more narrow your niche is, the more effective your marketing is going to be. But it's, to me, the biggest X factor of why it's grown, especially in the real estate business as a whole. I mean, that's like exponentially larger than Life on Fire. Life on Fire, we didn't have the amount of time to put into it like we did on the real estate brand. But the thing is that when you have everybody that shares the same values, there's a difference in community. So like, I love seeing like a female brand, right? So if it's a female brand and she's only working with women, and they have events, they have community, there's a different connection, and the community's stronger. Well, the same thing with a faith-based community. So people they're already in alignment from a values perspective. And then it goes from being a job or a business to, this is a mission. And when a client signs up, they're signing up to be a part of the mission. And that's very different than like, okay, I want to sign up to write a book, or I want to sign up to learn how to flip houses. It's like, this is a mission. Like, the real estate brand is about taking territory for God's glory. Like, we have a partner that buys multifamily apartment buildings, and we're fortunately a part of it, very small part. So that big number of like how much real estate I'm a part of, I'm a percentage owner with these partners. But like, when you have a mission, these guys with these apartment buildings, it's called investing with purpose. They take a percentage of an apartment, like we're talking like a $50 million apartment building with 400 or 500 doors, and a percentage of the cash flow is funding Tim Tebow's foundation to do something to stop human trafficking. We have a pastor that gets placed in every apartment building to minister to the property. Like if you look at it and say, what would Jesus like actually want us to do as entrepreneurs? And we're like, screw it. We're gonna be bold and do crazy things. We're gonna put pastors and give them free rent. And they're gonna literally just serve and love people, not be outside like with a bell, you're gonna go to hell. It's like, no. Yeah, it's like, no, it's like we're going to have them, we're going to pay for someone to do oil changes once a quarter. Like we're going to do prayer walks. That pastor's going to do prayer walks once a week on Sundays. Like, and yeah, they'll invite them to church when the time is right, but they're not going to be obnoxious or pushy. But it's to show the love of God, right? So I share that because that is such a different mission than, hey, Chandler, dude, throw in, $100,000 to be a part of this real estate deal and get, a 12% preferred return and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's very different when it's mission. So that to me is it, whether it's Christianity for me or whoever, it's like when you associate a mission to your business, it's almost like we can boil it down to that as the X factor. It's kind of like what Simon Sinek, The Power of Why, getting out from just, hey, we're selling stuff or have a service to, no, we're here for a mission. And so, yeah, it's probably the best way I can explain the growth factor on it.
Love it. That's awesome. Let's talk online launch model. I know that's something you guys have done really well. You mentioned earlier with the first challenge the first free challenge, kind of pivoting that in 2020, dumping the normal ad budget, a couple $100,000 or whatever it was, free challenge. And I think then it's some sort of offer, then in-person event, then maybe that leads to one of your coaching offers or the real estate investing offer or something else. Can you walk me through what's the mechanics of that? What works well that people who might want to run a live challenge in their business can learn from? And yeah, but let's maybe just start there.
Yeah. So this to me is the most profitable way to get customers, to serve people, and to ultimately get high ticket clients that I've found. I know a lot of people like evergreen, it's repeatable, or have a phone sales team or this or that. We pulled that off in the real estate brand, but I found that for Life on Fire, it's never been easy. We've had a really difficult time. So the context I'll share is our most recent example. Not to confuse anybody, but my wife, she's my business partner, my best friend. She always had a dream to do what we do with Life on Fire, to coach people on how to share their God-given message in books and speaking and coaching, but to do it for women. So the model that we basically just duplicated to her. So I'm going to break it down, and my hope is that anyone who's watching or listening can just grab onto it, and you can execute this. You don't have to have an ad budget. We have lots of people that do this, on a no budget or shoestring budget. That's how I started. So basically, we knew that she wanted to coach Christian women in business to help them get clear on their message, and then coach them on how to get customers and how to launch their book and things like that. So then if we back up, the first step in the top of the funnel was she created what's called She Is Wealthy. So the brand is called She Is Wealthy. She created the She Is Wealthy challenge. Now, part of the secret sauce in having an online event is, if you're new, you really want to have somebody who has influence on that free event. Because if you're like, all right, I'm brand new and I'm going to do this online event, and here's the thing, to make it simple, an online challenge or an online summit or an online virtual event, we're literally talking about 3 Zoom sessions. Right. So the technology is simple nowadays. Everybody knows how to use Zoom. It's just call it 3 or 5 Zoom sessions, or it could be a one-day event, which is like 3 or 5 sessions in one day. And so that's what it was. It was 3 live sessions. But the twist was, it's not just Megan Unsworth. Now, hey, she was kicking butt with me and with Life on Fire, but in all transparency, like her brand, to go out and to market this thing, I mean, we needed some other influencers, which would elevate her influence, which is huge, and be the draw. So if you think about in real estate, a Starbucks is an anchor tenant because a Starbucks, we know every Starbucks is going to bring hundreds of cars a day to that building. So when you get somebody who has influence to speak, an anchor speaker on your virtual event, they are the draw, because most entrepreneurs say, but Nick, how am I going to get people to that event? Like, I get it. I can do 3 Zooms and we can name it something cool, but how am I going to get the people? So how you get the people is by having a big name. So in Megan's case, she got Jamie Kern-Lima, who is, I mean, she sold her company for $1 billion in cash to L'Oreal. She's awesome. She's a believer. She got Demi Tebow, Miss Universe, Tim Tebow's wife, also pretty cool. And Lakeisha, and then my wife, Megan. And so it was cool. It was unique. And like, women would love to hear from these people. And so if we put it in the context of everyone watching or listening, it's like, well, who should you get in your target market? You could post on Facebook or Instagram and just say, hey, I'm going to put on this virtual event on this topic. Who would you love for me to get to interview? And you're going to get people that say, oh my gosh, if it has to do with, health and wellness, or if it has to do with this or whatever the niche is, people will tell you who they want. And then you can reach out to them, because now the next question is, everyone always says, but how on earth am I, little old me, going to go get this big name influencer? So I'll give a couple very quick strategies. Number one is just say, hey, I'm putting on the XYZ virtual event or summit or challenge. And my network, as I shared, who do you want me to have speak? Everyone's requesting you. So if I could get 30 minutes, and if you're only asking for 30 minutes on a Zoom call, you're not asking them to fly across the country. You're not asking them for, it's not that big of an ask. And if you have a mission that's in alignment with their mission, some people will literally just say yes. And all it is you go to their website, there's a contact us, anyone with influence, they've got media kits, they have a process to get booked on stage, and you just got to reach out, and you got to commit to reaching out at least 5 times, because they will ignore you most likely, so you reach out. And then the ninja strategy is, well, you could definitely pay. You could pay anybody to get on your stage, and that's a shortcut, if you have the budget. But if you don't have the budget, this is what I did when I got started, is I had nothing. I had no money. I was in debt. But you can reach out to somebody with influence, tell them what you have for this virtual event, and then you can say, I want to feature you, and you can sell your XYZ product, your coaching, your service, whatever it is that they have. And in their mind, it's like, okay, if I show up for an hour and they have 500 people live and they sell their offer and they get 50 to 75 clients, that, depending on what their price point is, they could make tens of thousands of dollars. So it's so cool, because that generates revenue. They're happy. And the way that we structure it is that you get a 50% affiliate commission. Now that's negotiable, could be 30 or 20 or 10, whatever. But how cool is it that a lot of people that are new, they have a passion about something, they want to do something, but they don't know how to get started. They don't know how to get the people to it. So what I'm describing basically solves the problem of, I don't have influence. It solves the problem of, how am I going to get people to this thing? Because you've got an influencer who is a draw, an anchor. And if you don't have an offer, it solves the problem of, well, I'm going to get this person to come on. They're going to share their offer, and you're going to get a commission. And now if anyone's thinking, well, shoot, I'm not Chandler Bolt, I'm not like a fancy interviewer, who's got it down pat. Anyone with influence who gets on your Zoom, you introduce them, you read a bio that you've got on your screen. Trust me, they know how to talk. They know how to, if they're good at what they do, they know how to sell, right? So anyway, that model, you can make money if they have their own offer. If you have your own offer, in our context, I'll kind of speed it up so I don't go too long. In our context, Megan did the virtual event, had these awesome influencers. We did run ads, so we spent, it was about $150K in ads on the challenge, which not everyone has $150K. I didn't when I first started, but you can leverage the speakers that you have. Speakers cross promote. We sold a $997 program. It was a coaching program, live weekly calls. And then what happens is, when people are there live and they're getting this awesome content, you're over delivering for free. So it's the law of reciprocity. When you bless somebody and they've paid nothing, and then you've got an offer. In our case, we always do everything where it's like, if you're paying $1,000, yeah, we're going to give you a one-on-one coaching call. If you pay $1,000, we're going to give you a live event. If you pay $1,000, we're going to give you live calls. So a lot of people in this industry goof up because they're trying to just sell some course. Like Chandler, man, like, I mean, someone just buying a bunch of videos, like people don't get the results that you'd hope that they would get, right? So go the extra mile, serve people. And then here's what's also really cool about the model is when you do it in that way and you have live fulfillment coaching calls, the relationship is so strong. The results you get for the clients are so strong, but everyone that signs up is getting 2 tickets to an in-person event that is about 60 to 75, or maybe even 90 days away. So the speakers that we had on the free challenge that were amazing also were speaking at the in-person event. So when someone looks at it and says, oh my
that's
gosh,
cool. That's
yeah.
smart.
And then this is this, we've never done this before, but I have to share this for anyone that is like, all right, I'm going to do this. Demi Tebow could only speak on Friday night. So our event was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the in-person event. So the in-person event was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Everyone that bought the program got 2 tickets for themselves, themselves or a friend. It was a women's event. And then Demi could only speak on Friday. We normally have the speakers speak on the last day, because if anyone signs up into the high ticket coaching, we want to bless them with a picture with, Miss Universe and a picture with Jamie
cool.
Kern-Lima.
That's
it's smart. Just a little carrot. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's awesome. People are fired up. They're like, hey, if I'm going to sign up for this thing anyway, might as well get the pictures because it's pretty unique. But here's what happened. Demi could only do Friday night, which is day 1. So we're like, how do we make this work? Got creative. And then we came up with an idea where anybody that pays in full for it was called She Is Wealthy Academy for $997 on the first day of the in-person event, you're going to get a ticket, 2 tickets to go to a dinner with Demi, called it the Dinner with Demi, with Megan, with Lakeisha, who is the MC. And you're going to get this private Q&A. You're going to get a signed copy of her book. And like Demi Tebow, like she's not out on the speaker circuit. Like she's an incredible woman of God. And like, and you get a picture with Demi and with Megan. Like, so watch what happens. Now, instead of getting 30, 40% full pays, we got 68% full pays. You know what I'm saying? So like we put money out in ads, which is scary, right? Investing in ads is super scary. But when you have big names and when you have, a good offer, and then there's an incentive for someone to pay in full, we more than or just about doubled our amount of people that paid in full. The other thing that we did is we improved, and I'm getting a little bit kind of advanced here, but we improved the show up rate of the people who attended the in-person event, right? Because they were coming for this dinner.
Right.
So long story short is, on the quote front end, the free online challenge was profitable. It was over a 2x ROAS, as it's called, return on ad spend, which means for every dollar we put in, we got 2 back. So we were profitable. We used the profit to fulfill. We used the profit to cover all the expenses at the event, to cover, in this case, we had speaker fees because of the in-person event. And we didn't do the whole model I shared earlier. And now we show up at the event, and dude, imagine showing up at an event that's paid for. There's no pressure. You don't have to perform to sell. You don't have to twist people's arms. You show up and you give your best and you bless these people and you do what you do, right? Whether it's me or you, Chandler, or anyone listening, watching, right? It's like, what is that thing that you're called to do, right? In your business, over deliver for them. And then, there are some strategic things, you share a panel with your testimonials. You make your offer, on day 2, and then on day 3, we, shared the offer again. And it was crazy. I mean, and I share this because it's not just, hey, Nick's been doing this for 10 or 11 years. Megan had never sold on a webinar. It was always, I was always the guy. It was always me, the front guy, and Megan kind of like my sidekick, right? But we switched it. It was like, all right, Megan, we're going to prove that you can do it because you're such a boss. And she's,
Mm-hmm.
she had never sold on a webinar. She had never sold on stage, and she just followed the blueprint. I mean, even something like, how do I make an offer on stage? It's, if you got the slides, if you got the right order, it's literally, she just followed the same template. And dude, she had 40 women sign up at 30K. And I mean, her first event, it was like a, 7-figure event. It was just crazy. So it was awesome. She was
That's
fired
incredible.
up.
7-figure event. Amazing. Love it. Well, thanks for breaking down that model, man. And for people who are listening or hearing, I mean, you kind of, I love how you just broke that down. You've got the free challenge. So it's reciprocity. It's a ton of giving up front. That is then leading to an offer that's course, but differentiated because you got a free coaching call, which I'm assuming is also an opportunity to plug, hey, add a ton of value. We've got a higher ticket offer. If this is
We
something
actually
you're interested
didn't sell anything. So we were in, so we literally said, like, this is a 1-hour call. We're going to map your strategy. We're going to give you a PDF of your strategy. No sale. Like, we were super transparent. Like,
cool.
This is a non-sales call, which, because people were wondering, like, if I get it, but anyway,
it's like a fake free.
It worked out because they trusted that we were transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I find is the more transparent we are, and it's so funny, the more transparent and honest, the better the results.
Right.
So it's kind of like, because as marketers, there's all these marketers and all these communities, and everyone's trying to like game the system. And it's like, gosh, if we just say, you know what, this is not a sales call, and we're just insanely transparent. They've seen so much other stuff out there that they were like, wow, they were actually right. Like, they didn't pitch me something. So this never happened in the history of our whole, 11 years doing all this. We had people that were so bought into the mission and to Megan and to everything that at registration on day one of the live event, a woman signed up for a $30,000 high ticket coaching offer. Now, there's a lot of services. It's not just like, hey, one-on-one coaching. I mean, there's a lot of done for you stuff that we do for their book and other things. But imagine someone signing up before the event's even started at registration because of the strength of fulfillment and that transparency, which to me is like a huge strategy in and of itself.
Agreed. It's funny, right? Being straight up and transparent. It really resonates with people.
Dude, I'm not kidding. Do you know Shanda Sumter?
Mm-hmm.
So years ago, we were cracking up and we came up with this saying, honesty is the best close.
Right.
Like, it's so wild. Like, but we're so indoctrinated with all this content from marketers, and
right.
it's so wild that honesty is the best close. And what's cool is, like, Megan didn't have to pretend that she's some whiz bang, sales speaker like someone else on stage. She was just straight up, like, she's never done this before, but she has 10 years of coaching, but she's never sold on stage. And that kind of cut the nerves, and everyone was like rooting for her,
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, it's very disarming and just straight up. And we've seen that similarly, whether it's with challenges that we've run or events that I've run. It's just at the start saying, hey, my goal is we want to add as much value as humanly possible in these X days. And so much so that you decide you want to work with us. And if not, that's totally cool too. So I just want to be super straight up at the start. Yeah, and we were like, oh, cool. Okay, great. And it just, it's just clear. And
I love that.
People really resonated with it.
It kicks, everyone's looking at the elephant. Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room,
100%.
That's awesome.
Well, this has been awesome, Nick. I've got probably about 20 more questions, but we'll stop here for now. To be continued. Where can people go to find out more about you, your business, or the best place that people can plug in to work with you guys or learn more?
Yeah, so I would say the best thing is Instagram, just Nick Unsworth 51, and or lifeonfire.com. And so that kind of gets you into my world. And my goal is to just add value, and I do have all these little branches now. So, but yeah, just Nick Unsworth 51 on Instagram and lifeonfire.com. So
love it, guys. Give it up for Nick, lifeonfire.com, or find him on Instagram. Appreciate you, Nick. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Self-Publishing School podcast. I know there's so many places that you can be spending your time. There's other podcasts that you could be listening to, YouTube channels that you could be watching. So thank you so much. It means the world. Now, I want you to do 3 things right now if you found this episode helpful. All right, number 1, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a YouTube channel. It's a companion channel to this podcast. All the video versions of the episode are on the YouTube channel. So number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Number 2, if you're listening to this podcast wherever, whether this is Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Number 2, I want you to subscribe to this podcast right now so you don't miss a future episode. And then number 3, this is probably the most important, leave a review on the podcast. All right, reviews are super important and help the podcast get discovered by other people. So number 3, leave a review on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. If you're on the fence about scheduling a publishing consultation call with my team, maybe you're not quite ready for that, I've got some free training that I think will be really helpful for you. All right, all you have to do is go to register to sign up. Go to selfpublishing.com/free training. When you do, you're also going to get a free digital copy of my new book, Published. And on that training, you're going to learn the next steps, so how to implement with your book. So how to write, how to publish, how to launch successfully. So go to register right now at selfpublishing.com/free training. I'll see you there.